How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to an episode here on Let's Build Twitter. As always, I'm Ethan, or No Coder, your favorite underqualified senior software engineer. And as always, if you guys do want access to the private repository, there's a link in the description down below that I'll walk you through exactly how to get access to that. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and hop into what we're working on today. Firstly, I want to go ahead and say hopefully everyone had a good holiday season. By the time you guys see this, it should be the new year. And I would have been on like a 2-week or so recording break, just spending time with family up in Iowa and whatnot. So hopefully everyone had a great time, and hopefully at this point, by the time you guys see in this episode, I also got to work on the project a little bit whenever I had a week off from work and get a lot done that we can continue stacking these episodes, and fingers crossed get this thing done this year. We don't have that much left. So what we have left to do in this episode though is we're gonna go ahead and fix this bug that I just saw here. I don't know where the heck this came from. I thought I had tested this extensively, but I guess not enough. And then we'll also go ahead and get it so we can finally make replies, and hopefully fingers crossed be able to show them on the screen, leaving like one more thing left to do in the next episode to get all of these done. So that being said, let's go and hop into the code and get to work here. So like I mentioned, we have an issue inside of our message component here. So let's go ahead and hop in here, and we're going to go ahead and add a class name to this guy equal to message-content-group. We're going to go ahead and kind of add a flex to this and make them go where we want. So let's go ahead and hop into our CSS and get this set up. So inside of our message container group, I'm going to go ahead and add a message dash container or content dash group like we had before. It's going to be really simple. It's going to have a display flex and then a flex, maybe a flex dash direction. And this is just going to be column. That way we can stack it up and down. And we just need to go into our message gray. So message gray is going to be align self. It's going to be flex dash start. This really isn't needed, but it is what it is. And then message blue, we're going to have align self, and it's going to be flex dash end, and that should push those messages over to the right. So let's go and make sure this worked, and then we can get into what I actually wanted to work on today. So you can see this guy is over to the right where it's supposed to be. I don't know why it's so small. It might be, is this only 223? No, it's less than 223. It might just be the way it's kind of broken down and stuff. Sometimes it splits and stuff weird. So not sure what's going on there. It seems like a lot of these a little bit smaller. I don't know what's going on with it, but it is what it is. It should be fine. So that being said, let's go ahead and hop back into the code and get to work on getting our replies to work. So to get our replies to work, we need to go ahead and hop into the message slice. Inside the message slice, we're going to go ahead and start out and go to the bottom where all of our payloads are. We're going to add a new interface. We're going to go ahead and call this send reply, maybe reply payload. And this is going to be very, very similar to our send message payload. So a message payload, which is going to be a create message DTO. We're going to have an image, which will be a file or null. We're going to have reply to, which is going to be slightly different from our create message, and it's going to be a string. And we'll also have a token, which is a string. Now we have this set up. We're ready to go ahead and set up our create reply. First thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to make a new function that generates our form data for us since we're reusing this. So I'm going to go ahead and say const generate form data. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and call this generate message form data. If I could type, that'd be cool. And this is going to take in a message payload, which is going to be a create message DTO. And this is also going to take in an image, which will be a file or null, maybe. And this is going to go ahead and return us a form data object. And all I'm going to go ahead and do is literally take the code from here. So I'm going to go ahead and say let data, do all of this stuff. I'm going to go ahead and delete it out of here. I'm going to go ahead and paste it in here, and then we'll go ahead and return the data. So go ahead and return data. We need to make a couple of changes here. I don't know why this is really mad, but I'll fix it in a second. Oh, it's because I never set up the arrow. So that's why it's mad. Makes sense. Let's go ahead and set up the arrow. So let data, and now this is just going to be message payload instead of payload.message payload. So let's go ahead and get rid of that part. And then here, this is going to be image. Okay. And we'll go ahead and append the image like so. And then that is good to go. And now we can go ahead and say let data equal to, and then generate our message form data. Message form data. We'll go ahead and pass in, if I could type, payload dot message payload, and then payload dot image. And that'll go ahead and make our lives easier now whenever we create our async thunk for our send reply. So now let's go ahead and export const. And this is going to go ahead and be send reply, just to be kind of consistent. This will be create async thunk, like so. And then here we'll have our payload, which will be a send reply. I guess it's not send reply payload because it's not showing up. Maybe it is, I don't know, thunk API. We'll see if we can find it. Or if I spelled something wrong, maybe I didn't call it send reply. What did I call this? Send reply payload. I don't know why it's not showing up. What did I typo down here? Payload, send reply payload, export const, send reply, create async thunk. Oh, it's because I'm doing this incorrectly. Let's make sure we do this right. We need to do it like this. Small brain fart. We have our message dash reply first, and then we'll have our async. And then we can go ahead and do our payload. Now we have our reply, send reply payload, like so. And then our thunk API, just gotta make sure I actually do it right. We'll set up a try catch, which we don't actually have a try catch here. We probably should. I'm gonna go ahead and set up a try catch. It's gonna be slightly different than what we have, but it's fine. We return thunk API dot reject with value. Pass back E, and then inside of our try catch, we're going to go ahead and say let data is equal to generate message form data. Once again, we'll say payload dot message payload, and we'll also go ahead and say payload dot image. We'll have our form data. Also going to go ahead and say append, and inside here we're going to go ahead and append reply to, which will be payload reply to, which is the main difference between making a message and reply. Now we'll go ahead and say let config equal to an object, and here method will be post, so it's going to be very similar to what we already have. Our URL will be HTTP. Make sure we set up a string colon slash slash localhost colon 8000 slash message slash reply. Hopefully I didn't typo anything. And we'll also have our headers. So our headers will have our authorization, and here we'll have backticks, and then bear $sign curly brace, the token that we have. We're also going to have a content dash type to let our API know that this is going to be a multi-part, and then slash form dash data. And then finally, we'll go ahead and append our data. Now let's see if this is actually mad. So this should be payload.token, but the rest of it is fine. Cool. Now we'll go ahead and say let res equal to await Axios. And then we'll go ahead and pass in that config like a type, and then we'll go ahead and return. Actually, not returning anything. We're just going to say thunk API, and I'm pretty sure we should return here .dispatch. We might just ignore the state. Received, and once again we're going to go ahead and say received message, and then we'll go ahead and say res.data. I don't know why received message is not showing up. Let's see. There we go. I just typoed, and I'm going to go ahead and return res.data here because we are going to set up a filled state here. So let's scroll down to our builders, or our async thunks, whatever we want to call them. So on our X reducers, let's go down to the last fulfilled here. The fulfilled or filled to hide. Here we go. We're going to go ahead and say builder to add case. It's going to be super simple. Basically, it's going to get rid of our reply to. We're going to go ahead and say send reply, and then dot fulfilled. And then here, we don't really care about the state and the action, but went ahead and returned it anyway. State will be equal to .state, and then reply to message. We'll go ahead and set to undefined because we are no longer replying anymore. We'll go ahead and return that state. That's good to go. Now let's go into the message bar to actually be able to create a reply. So once inside the create message bar here, let's go ahead and first we need to actually just pull in the reply to message to make sure it exists. So we're going to go ahead and say const reply to message is equal to use selector. Have our state, and then I'm going to make sure this is lowercase state, root state, and then here we'll have state dot message, and then this is going to be reply to message. All All right, so now let's come down here where we actually handle creating our message or sending the message. So handle send message. We're just going to make a couple of changes here. So whenever we get down here to where we are setting up the type of the message. So here we're going to go ahead and say reply to message. If it's a reply to message, it's going to be a reply. And otherwise it'll be a message. So that part's good to go. If I could go ahead and type properly, that'll go ahead and set that up. And then we need to go ahead and wrap this dispatch in if. So we're gonna go ahead and say if reply to message. Then we'll do one thing. Otherwise we'll go ahead and dispatch the send message. So let's go ahead and put this guy back inside this else. So if we don't have a reply to message, we'll go ahead and send the message like normal. If we have a reply to message, we're going to go ahead and dispatch, and it's going to be send reply. And then in here, it's going to basically be the same thing of a message payload. We'll have our image, which is our message image. And then here we're going to have reply to, and this is going to be backticks, and then $ curly brace, reply to message.message ID converted to a string, and we're going to have our token. So that's all we really need to change inside here. We're just going to go ahead and whenever we click send on the message, we're going to check if we're trying to reply to a message or not, and then that will send a reply rather than sending a message. And that's the great thing about the way that we set up the reply. It's so simple and so basically the same exact thing that it makes it easier for us to do this. So now the last thing we need to go ahead and do is actually set the replies to show up inside of our message, because right now we should be able to actually send replies. We just won't be able to see it, which we can actually go ahead and test out. So I have our Redux open, which I don't know if it's actually going to be up to date. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up our footer here. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go ahead and open up Redux DevTools in a window. We go ahead and make this. We can go ahead and see all the stuff that's going on. We have our message. It's our message conversations. We should have a conversation open as well. I don't know why conversation itself isn't set up, but it is what it is. But if we go ahead and I guess we actually don't have it open. If we open this up, we should be able to actually reply to, let's just do this message from Rick. And then let's just go ahead and say replying to a message with only, and then text or something. Let's go and get rid of our inspect. We don't need that. And let's go ahead and send that. So we can see we have message reply here and it's when it was sent, but we can't actually see anything else going on here. If we go into our Redux Dev Tools, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. We should see that we have a message reply fulfilled, and that went ahead and set our message reply. We also had a message received, which should have our message in it, so on and so forth. So that added our reply, but we can't actually see it. So what we want to go ahead and do now is hop back into the code, set up the new component inside our MessageContainer to actually view this, and then test a couple other things like images, stuff like that, just to make sure everything's like working and everything like that. So that being said, let's hop into the code again. Once again, in our MessageContainer, let's go ahead and scroll to the bottom underneath our message subtitle. Let's go ahead and set up an interface, and this is going to be our reply message props. Inside reply message props, we have a message and message. We have users message, which is a Boolean. We're going to have reply to text, which would be a JSX.element array. We're going to set this up in a little bit. And finally, we have text content will be a JSX.element array. Excuse me for one moment. I need a drink to clear my throat. All right, now we can go ahead and say const reply message is equal to a react.fc. And here we're going to go ahead and have our reply message props. And then we're going to go ahead and break this guy apart. So I have our message. We'll have our users message, we'll have our reply to text, and we'll have our text content. Go ahead and set up our arrow function. So now we're going to have const and calculate, and this is going to be reply message style. And this is whenever I made this function, I'm like, maybe we should be using style components, but it is what it is. So here we're going to go ahead and return an object. So max. If I could type max, oh my goodness, and width. So max width would be users message question mark. If it's a users message, it would be 275 px. Otherwise, it'll be 223 px. Next, we'll have justify self, and this is going to be users message question mark again. If it's user mex, we flex end. Otherwise, it's going to go ahead and be flex dash start. And finally, we'll have align items, and this should be uppercase items like so. Once again, we'll check users message question mark flex dash end. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and have flex dash start. So that'll go ahead and determine those styles. Now we'll go ahead and return, and inside of return we'll have a div, and then inside this div we'll have curly braces, message reply to. We'll go ahead and check to see, because this was just kind of being dumb, so I'm like, whatever, I'll just deal with it this way. Here I have a div with a class name equal to reply dash message. And then otherwise, what we'll go ahead and do is we'll just have nothing basically. So we're just going to go ahead and set up an empty fragment. So that kind of fixes that. So now what does our reply look like? So we're going to have a div class name, and we're going to have the part of the message that we're replying to. So it's going to be reply dash message dash to. So who are we replying to? So here we're going to say users message question mark. We can reply to our own messages, so it's going to be slightly different. Here, if it's to ourselves, we're going to undo, and this is going to be sx equal to, and then font size will be about 10 px, and the color, I always keep missing this, color will be £657786. So if we were the ones that did the reply, we'll do undo. And then here we'll do redo if we weren't the one. So sx is equal to font size of 10 px once again. And then once again, our color will be £657786. And then below this, we just need replying to message.reply to question mark dot sent by dot nickname. So that's the first thing that we see. Let's go ahead and import redo from our material UI as well. Okay, underneath this message, we're going to have another message.reply to message text is equal to an empty string. So if we don't have any message text, we're going to just go ahead and display the message image or message conversation image. So message conversation image. Message will equal to message, and this is actually message.reply to, and then width is going to be equal to user's message once again. So it's going to either be 270 or it's going to be 223. And we might need to make some changes here, because this is actually should be 270 as well. So let's go ahead and fix that. I must have missed it. We're going to make us, actually no, I missed it up here. We want this to stay 275. We want this to be 275. I made some changes, tested some stuff out, and then changed some stuff. So I just missed this. Otherwise, if we do have text, we're going to have another div, the class name equal to, and this will be backticks, curly braces, and reply message container, message dash, and then curly braces. That's a $sign. And then users message question mark. We're going to go ahead and say right. Otherwise, we'll say left. And we need to go ahead and add the border. That's why we kind of broke it up this way. And then inside here, we'll have another div class name equal to reply message text. Inside here, we'll have reply. And this should be reply, to text. And then underneath this, if we have a message image with text, we'll say reply to dot message image, and then we'll have just an image. This should technically be its own special thing, but I'm too lazy. We've been going on too long. I just want to go ahead and display this. So message dot reply to dot message image, width is going to be equal to 32, height is going to be equal to 18. And I thought I'd put a thing on this, but I guess not, a class name, but it is what it is. And then now underneath this guy, we need to go ahead and add in our message component. So message component, and then this is going to go ahead and have message equal to the message. So this is the actual reply we made. Color is going to be users message question mark, and this will be blue. Blue. Otherwise, it'll go ahead and be gray. We could have calculated that inside, but whatever. And display PFP is going to equal to not user's message again. I can't type tonight. It's getting pretty late. Text content will equal to text content that we pass in. So that is our reply. We're going to have the message we're replying to at the top here. So that's our reply to message that goes from here. And I might have broken this a little bit. I'm not sure, but basically we have the message that we're replying to, and we're going to have a message component that is our reply. So now we need to go ahead and just add this in basically. First, we need to calculate the reply to text content. We also never used our calculate message reply, so this needs to go into our reply message. I just missed this. Style is equal to calculate message style. Go ahead and call that like so. Okay, there we go. That would have been a head scratcher moment. What's going on? Now let's go up to where this goes. So it's going to go above where our message is. So now here we're going to go ahead and have message reply. It might be reply message. I think it's reply message. There we go. Let's go ahead and set up these. And I should have actually set up the function to do the content first. So I'm going to say const reply to text content like so. This would be JSX dot element, and we need to do this because there could be emojis inside of the comment or the message we're replying to. So if our message reply to and I'm just gonna go ahead and do this. Whoops. Let's go ahead and just copy this guy, basically copy him and then paste this in. We need to make a couple small changes here. So let's just do this and do this. So here, instead of message.message text, it's gonna be message reply to .message text, and this should be fine. We'll add an else here, return an empty array. But if we're calling this message reply to should exist. Now we can come down to our reply message. We can go ahead and set this up. So it's going to be message equal to message. We'll have our users message equal to users message. We'll have our reply to text equal to reply to text content. And finally, make sure we actually call this. And then finally, our text content will be equal to text content. And I typoed something, reply to text content and content. I missed a T here. Let's go ahead and fix that. All right, now it's compiling. Now we just need to go ahead and set up the CSS for this. So let's hop into the CSS. So this CSS is all new because we didn't have a reply. So go ahead and put dash reply message. So this will be width of fit dash content. We'll have a height of fit dash content. We're going to have a display of flex. We'll flex dash direction in the column. So basically up and down. We'll align items in the flex dash end. We're going to justify content in the flex dash end. And we're going to have a cursor a pointer, even though you can't really click on anything. We'll have dot reply dash message dash to. Okay, and here we'll have width once again, fit dash content. We're gonna have a height of fit dash content, a margin on the bottom, like a type of 4px. We're gonna have a display of flex once again, a justify content in the flex dash start. We're going to have align dash items in the center, and we will have a small gap of about 2px. Have a font dash size of 11px. A font, I can't type, font dash weight of 400, and then a color of £657786. Our favorite color. I don't know if this is it or not. We have one more. So dot reply dash message dash container. I don't remember setting this up, but I'm sure we did. So padding is going to be 12px, 16px, 24px, and 16px. We need a little bit extra space on the bottom. We're going to have a margin bottom of minus 18 px because that looks good. Width will be fit dash content. Our height will be fit dash content. We're gonna have a word dash wrap of break dash word. We're gonna have a font size of 13px, a font dash weight of 400. We'll have a color of pound 657786. We're gonna have a background dash color, and this is gonna be like our light gray, so it'll be E1, E8, ED, and then set up a display of flex, a justify content in the flex dash start. We're gonna go ahead and align items in the flex dash end, and finally we're gonna have a small gap of 8px. Now, here's the question. Is it going to work? Did we break something? I don't know. Did we even set up this reply message container? I'm going to go and test that first. So I'm going to go back into our message container TSX. I'm going to go down to the bottom here. Just double check that I set up the CSS properly. Yes, we did. Okay. So now fingers crossed. Let's take a look. Now you can see we have a message from Rick. You can see it kind of hovers over. And now, as you can see, there's kind of like not very much space in between these. So that's the last thing I want to go ahead and do. I want to get all of this spacing working. And now this actually isn't an issue like it was last night. Last night, there's a big issue here with this being too big. So that's interesting. This isn't an issue anymore. I'll keep an eye on it, but we do want some spacing in between here. So let's go into our conversation container CSS and add some gap there. So we're going to go down to about line 12 here. Inside our conversation messages, we're going to go ahead and add a display of flex. We're going to go ahead and add a flex dash direction of column, and finally we're going to go ahead and add a gap. It's actually a pretty big gap of 16px. Let's go ahead and save that and take one last look before we wrap up the episode. So now we have some space in between there. Replying to Rick, that actually looks a little bit small. Let me go ahead and double check if this is the right size. It does in fact look like the right size, just like a little bit small. So that is our replying working. We could try out a couple more things. So for example, if we go ahead and try to reply to this message, so I'll go ahead and hit reply, and we'll say replying to a message with an image. Let's make sure this works. And again, we might need to do the same exact thing here where we need to push this to the right. So let me go ahead and take a look into that really quickly. Somewhere I missed some code to make sure that gets pushed over. So here, reply message container, what we could probably end up going ahead and doing inside of a reply message container, we can add a flex, and then we can go ahead and add a justify. So let's go into our CSS and add a flex to this if we haven't already. And we're looking for message reply container. It does have a display flex. I don't think we want to align items in here, or maybe we do. Let me think. I'm thinking about this for a sec here. This actually isn't what we want. I think we wanted this guy maybe. Let me double check again. Yeah, so it's going to be this justify content, I believe, flex start. So what we're going to want to go ahead and do is let's get rid of it here. Okay. And let's just make sure that it didn't change anything. So it's still there. And let's go ahead and inspect and just test this really quick. This is all on the fly. I thought this was working before, but maybe I was going crazy or something. So we have this div here, or is this the same exact issue we were coming from before? I thought we had fixed this issue at the start of this episode, did we not? Let's see here, flex end. So okay, so no, it's the div above. I'm looking at the wrong div. We want to go ahead and add a flex and stuff to this guy. So let's go back into our component. So to cheat a little bit, we're going to go ahead and do, it's this component here. I'm going to go ahead and add a style. And inside of our style, I'm going to go ahead and put a display of flex. We'll go ahead and justify content, or not justify content. We're going to go ahead and have a flex direction, and this will be column so it doesn't break. And since I'm lazy, we're just going to go users message question mark. If that's the case, we're going to go ahead and we actually need to do it like this. So this will be I think it's going to be align items for this one. Go ahead and flex dash end. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and just put flex-start and let's see if that fixes the issue. There we go. That looks a lot better. Now, I don't know why all of these seem like they're so small. Like this is like capping out at 175. I don't know if I put a 175 typoed in here somewhere as like a max width, which I might want to look into here. I see a max width here, but that's nothing. I'm gonna check the CSS really quick. Let's just double check it and put a max with the 175 on one of these guys. I did. Okay, and that's probably why this wasn't breaking. Let's check to see what this looks like again. There we go. This still isn't breaking the way it was, but now we actually get what we want to look like. So that's what this guy looks like. We can go ahead and reply with a message. Let's go ahead and actually set up a reply. So we can reply to this guy with like image. So reply to a long message with an image of our own. We can go ahead and add an image on here. Throw this guy on there. Send. Make sure it looks okay. So that's what it's supposed to look like. Cool, cool. That's basically everything. The only other thing we don't have is if they would send like a message with just an image, but I'm not that concerned about showing that. Everything else is looking good. We added a little bit of extra time here debugging stuff, but anyway guys, hope you did enjoy. Like I said in the beginning of the episode, hopefully you had a good holiday. If you do want to see where we started from absolute scratch to get to the point we are now, there's a video playlist in the description down below that'll walk you through exact code to get access that. But as always, this has been Ethan or Nakoda. Hope you have a great day. I'll see you all in the next video.